After the tragic downfall of the House of Marbas at the hands of House Sylvester, the young lord of House Marbas is forced to take his father's life under the command of Count Alan de Sylvester, the lord of House Sylvester, a rival clan to House Marbas. It was a tragic day when the hands of young Lord Leon were stained by his own father's blood. With the head of the family gone, Leon Marbas is now next in line to become the new head of this declining family, the same family which once revered as the best house of necromancy. Now that he is the head of House Marbas, Leon is leading a conference with the other nobles residing in House Marbas territory. The nobles raise their concerns about their rival, House Sylvester, who is steadily taking control of Marbas territory day by day. There's no telling when they might invade Marbas's territory completely. One noble insists Leon bolster their defenses. As they continue their insistence, Leon politely shuts them off, urging them to practice patience, especially since decisions like these require more time to consider. But the nobles persist, believing that they are running out of time. But Leon strongly believes that unwise decisions may bode ill for his great house of Marbas. After the meeting ends, Leon reflects on how, with the demise of his father, Lord Rune von Marbas, he, Leon von Marbas, rose to the seat of Patriarch of House Marbas at the tender age of 14. House Marbas was once feared as a powerful clan of necromancers, though that reputation has long since faded into the annals of history. Since Leon lacks much experience in governing, he wants to seek guidance. He wonders what his parents would have done in a critical situation like this. While Leon knows that his parents won't respond to his call, for the dead tell no tales, and his parents can offer no wisdom from beyond the grave, he is still in sore need of guidance. He longs to figure out how he might restore glory and prosperity to his house. Leon walks to the office that once belonged to Wellen von Marbas, the founding progenitor of House Marbas, who also held the title of the sole necromancer of the continent during his time. It is said that House Marbas first rose to prominence because the original patriarch made his name on the battlefield. However, ever since the heyday of their founding patriarch, the lineage of Marbas has struggled to produce another full-fledged necromancer, leading the family's fortune down a path of decline. And as fate would have it, Leon was even forced to take his own father's life. Once inside the room, Leon picks up the book that chronicles their lineage. The founding Marbas patriarch, Wellen von Marbas, was a near-mythical figure. With a wave of his hand, he would sweep away his foes like a lethal tempest, summoning waves of the undead in an unrelenting death march. In just 2 months, the eastern region had been subjugated under his conquest. It is said that Wellen von Marbas struck a pact with the devil Marbas, unlocking one of the continent's greatest mysteries and secrets regarding necromancy. And it was possible all through the dread tome Necronomicon, which granted him the power to rule as the sovereign of the continent. And this book in front of Leon is the Necronomicon itself, a priceless heirloom passed down from their progenitor, the very tome that led to the rise of House Marbas as the sole family of necromancers on the continent. As Leon opens the book, he hears a commanding voice speaking to him. Startled, Leon realizes this mysterious voice is telepathic, but what puzzles him is how he's able to hear it, especially since the Patriarch's office is surrounded by an anti-magic field. Nonetheless, he responds, wanting to know whom he's speaking to. The voice echoes ominously, assuring him not to be afraid, as it poses no threat to him or his kin. Leon isn't sure if he should trust the words of something so mysterious that he can't even see. Suddenly, Leon begins to drift into another dimension. It is then that a giant mythical lion materializes right before him. The first thing Leon asks this creature is where exactly they are. Hearing this, the lion realizes that Leon seems unaware of mighty black lion's existence, which suggests that his predecessors likely never told him about such creatures. The lion remembers Leon's father, Rune, but it notices that the thread of mana binding his father to the lion has been severed. Growling, the lion remarks that Rune was such a kind-hearted man for the lord of a dark house, so his demise isn't all that surprising. The lion then asks Leon who dealt the fatal blow to his father. Without hesitation, Leon confirms that it was he who took his father's life. This causes the lion to roar in anger. But before doing anything lethal to Leon, the lion asks him once again if he is the one who slew his oath-bound contractor. Leon's response remains the same, claiming that he is the one who ended his father's life. The lion goes into a furious frenzy. A dark and crimson fluid strikes Leon, through which the lion peeks into the events of the past related to Leon. Seeing how Leon looks completely expressionless and deadpan before and after killing his father, the lion realizes that Leon has been stripped of his senses. The hands that cut the rope of guillotine may have been Leon's, but that does not mean he is the one who killed his father. However, Leon insists that he is responsible for it, and there is no point in denying this truth. This is then that the Black Lion senses something more profound in Leon than just despair. He notices an ominous aura radiating from him, an aura so overwhelming that even the great lion begins to cower like a kitten. By now, the lion has no doubt now that Leon will surpass his ancestors. The lion then gets a little humble and proceeds to introduce himself. He claims to be Marbas, one of the 72 demons of hell. He is the one who turned his back on the demonic realm and chose to exist alongside humankind instead. His first lifelong friend was Wellen von Marbas. He also claims to be the source of the necromancy that became the unique art of House Marbas. Hearing this, Leon remembers that he's heard these tales before. Leon already knows that when their progenitor founded House Marbas, this lion was the one who taught him the forbidden art of necromancy. The lion confirms this statement, adding that he is now bound to the Necronomicon, though he was a formidable demon before his binding. Leon also recalls how their founding patriarch often told them that necromancy is in Marbas's blood. So, it makes no sense to Leon why Marbas, the great lion, abandoned House Marbas eventually. The lion quickly senses the animosity Leon harbors and questions him about it. Leon expresses his concern. Since the time of their progenitor, House Marbas has not produced a necromancer of his caliber. The only reason Leon can think of is that the great lion abandoned them. The lion makes one thing clear. The reason why Leon and his kin have been unable to wield the true might of a necromancer is that they are too weak to perform the role of a fitting vessel. None of Wellen's descendants hold a candle to the sheer talent Wellen possessed. The only thing holding House Marbas back is the decline in their bloodline. After a moment of contemplation, Leon is ready to acknowledge what the lion is saying. After all, it's been nature's law that the strong devour the weak. This is one reason he doesn't feel much remorse about his father's passing, especially since he had nothing special to offer. That said, Leon decides to take the burden of what his father was supposed to do onto his own shoulders. Since Marbas, the black lion, claims he hasn't turned his back on them, Leon requires this lion to do him a favor. But the lion reminds our boy that a favor is an act of kindness, where one party only stands to make a loss. Being a demon, the lion prefers a pact or a deal rather than doing a favor. In this case, Leon decides to make a pact for the power of necromancy. He further strikes a nail into the lion's ego by questioning whether this mighty creature is even capable of granting such power. The lion acts somewhat annoyed at Leon throwing shade over his capabilities. For the lion, the most important question is whether Leon is even capable of wielding such magnificent power. Leon doesn't hesitate to confirm this. He feels more than entitled. Had he been some talentless peon, he would never have been permitted to exchange with a lofty demon such as this black lion. It is said that ordinary folk need only converse with a demon before they are robbed of all mana, suffer hallucinations, and ultimately lose their life. The fact that Leon remains standing means he must possess at least some modicum of potential to be worth the attention of this great lion. The lion admits that Leon is certainly not ordinary. He also seems to possess a measure of grit to boot. With this in mind, the black lion is ready for the pact. However, since it's a pact, Leon will have to offer something in return. Leon is willing to offer anything the lion desires and asks what the lion's price may be. The lion laughs before boldly demanding that he need every facet of Leon's being. This demand comes as music to Leon's ears, as he is more than willing to surrender every part of his meager existence to a mighty demon like Marbas. The scene then cuts to a conference between all of Marbas' household nobles. The only person absent is our boy, partly because of the fact that he was not invited. The white-bearded man, known as Sir Kernshal, speaks his concerns to his fellow nobles. He boldly declares how Lord Leon commands little authority to make decisions of grave importance that affect the entire house. He is sure that his other fellows agree with this assumption as well. The others stay quiet, and their silence is a sort of confirmation to his point. In this case, Sir Kernshal plans to take charge of all matters concerning the house for the foreseeable future. He believes he should be in charge because he is the uncle of Lord Leon, which makes him the closest kin of the current patriarch. With that, he gives the others the chance to speak if anyone has a problem with him taking the position as steward of the house. One man quickly supports Sir Kernshal, believing it would be unwise to oppose him, given that the alternative is a mere pup who hasn't even come of age yet. He certainly doesn't want to leave crucial decisions up to an unworthy child like Leon. Slowly but surely, the others vote for Sir Kernshal to take control of family affairs for now. But one fat man shows his disapproval. He believes that Lord Leon is the only direct descendant of the previous patriarch, and there is no precedent in their family history for appointing the next patriarch in violation of direct lineage. In response, one man glares in disapproval. He believes that what good is lineage when their entire family might be wiped out. The armies of those Sylvester brigands are marching against Marbas as they speak. While he does recognize the fatty's concerns about birthright, it's all pointless when they're all going to die following an incompetent blindly. But the fat man continues to disapprove of his friend's actions. He believes that every last one of them sitting here is only because they were granted a place at this table by the grace of his late lordship. So everyone here owes it to the house to fight to the very last. Even if the sitting patriarch has yet to gather his own faction, the fat man will not stand by and watch his uncle, Sir Kernchal, take Leon's rightful place as heir. By the way, this fat man's name is Pullen, and he seems to be a loyal follower of the previous patriarch. At this, Sir Kernchal stands up, acknowledging how the current patriarch seems to have at least one loyal follower. Pullen tells Sir Kernchal to cut the crap and come clean about what he really wants to say. Sir Kernchal snaps back with a sharp tone. As loyal as Pullen may be, Kernchal believes he lacks the shrewdness to see that it's a done deal. He walks over to Pullen and places his hand on his shoulder, exuding a menacing aura while threatening Pullen to think before speaking. He reminds him that everyone is gathered here for one purpose alone, to make an unsavory choice that would nonetheless be the least of all evils for the house. So he suggests that the fat man avoid standing in the way of their survival, because one wrong decision could lead to everyone's slaughter. We then cut back to the Black Lion and Leon in their intense negotiations. The Lion speaks of how, with this change in the subject of the pact, the true extent of his power has been curtailed. He also recalls how soft and naive Leon's father Rune was. As his contractor, his father possessed a far greater mana reserve than Leon does now. Speaking of mana, Leon remembers that any demon who makes a pact with a human must draw magic energy from their contractor to replenish their own reserve. So Leon questions the Lion about what he's going to do in this situation. The Black Lion snaps his fingers and transforms into a cute little puffy cat, claiming that this will be less draining to maintain. Leon is relieved that with this new form, the Black Lion will be easily mistaken for an adorable pet instead of a terrifying demon. Being called an adorable pet does not sit well with the Lion, so he gives Leon a deadly glare, exuding a threatening aura for calling him that. Anyway, the Lion decides that it's finally time for them to proceed with the next step. Leon is confused and curious, asking what comes next. The Black Lion questions Leon in response, wondering if he has forgotten that he wanted to obtain strength that would rival even their progenitor. Leon admits that he does indeed want that power. The Lion reminds him that the only way to acquire that power and ascend to the same heights as their progenitor is to follow in his footsteps. So, they will be making their journey to the hidden shrine of the progenitor. But before they begin the journey, the Lion warns Leon that it may claim his life, so he wants to know if Leon still consents. Leon simply gives this clueless expression upon hearing how the Lion continues to undermine his resolve. Anyway, the Lion begins to walk on his tiny paws to lead the way. After their short journey, Leon finds himself traversing through the thick forest, the mist woods of House Marbus if I have to be specific. The Black Lion reveals that this forest can be an inscrutable labyrinth for those who are not of the Marbus bloodline. Leon seems to already have a clue about this because his father had told him that only the rightful patriarch may set foot inside the secret shrine itself. But there's still something that doesn't make sense to Leon. If this place was supposed to grant his predecessors the power of necromancy, why has House Marbus failed to produce successful necromancers? The Lion reveals the reason behind it. Not a single one of them had been able to pass the trial. This is the most fundamental requirement if one is to walk the path to acquiring great necromancy power. No one to date has been able to satisfy this first condition and make it through the fog. Once they arrive at the designated location, the Lion raises his tiny paw, signaling Leon to stop. This is where they are about to begin their trial. The trial is simple. Leon has to descend into the mines. But before venturing deep into the uncharted territories, the Lion makes it clear that he would not be able to lend any helping hand. This will be a test of Leon's mettle. The Lion promises one last piece of advice. He urges Leon to follow the Necronomicon's instructions at all times, especially since it holds the key to the power Leon seeks, the power of necromancy. As Leon ventures deeper, he suddenly comes across the green creatures we commonly call goblins. But these goblins aren't the only thing here. There's also a lady captured by these bastards who seem to take pleasure in tormenting women. At that moment, the Necronomicon reacts. It claps, then opens, and the scene focuses on a verse written on one of its pages. The verse says, "The path to mastering necromancy begins with the secret to reanimating the dead." Meanwhile, the goblins are ready to attack Leon. He notices another verse encouraging him to take the lives of the living to start his journey. Since he's supposed to follow the Necronomicon's commands, Leon unsheathes his blade and stands tall against the goblins, who quickly charge at him with their weapons. Leon swings his short sword, cutting down one of the goblins right away, which counts as his first kill. The scene then takes us to the past, where Leon stands alongside his father in a cemetery. His father wants him to listen carefully to what he's about to say. In the great house of Marbus, his father reminds him that the entity most revered by their clan is death itself. The Marbus house is a clan of necromancers with dominion over the undead. For them, reversing death is held in the highest regard. At that moment, Leon wonders if reversing death is even possible. He had always thought that necromancers had to take lives to gain power whether they wanted to or not. His father affirms that the dark mages are feared by many across the continent. However, that doesn't mean they must become heartless villains. His father asks Leon to promise that, no matter who he faces in battle, if he holds power over life or death, he will make their end as peaceful as possible. This question lingers in Leon's mind, and sometimes he finds himself questioning whether he still has to keep his word with every foe he encounters. Back in the present, as Leon stands surrounded by these filthy creatures, that same question echoes in his mind. After all, he doesn't believe that creatures as vile as these deserve anything less than a painful death. But the most humane way to deal with them, he decides, is to aim for the cervical vertebrae with deadly precision. It's the quickest way to end them with the least amount of pain. Meanwhile, the Black Lion is simply amazed after witnessing our boy snag his first kill effortlessly. While it doesn't seem like Leon has much experience with a sword, he struck the vertebra with godly accuracy. For a moment, the Lion King considers that it might have been luck, or maybe a natural gift. But with more goblins charging, the Black Lion knows he'll soon find out. We shift our focus back to Leon. In the back of his mind, even he believes that his recent kill was more luck than skill. He's sure it's going to be a challenge fighting these green creatures. After all, goblins are shrewd and devious by nature. And to make matters worse, the visibility is poor. It's going to get even darker as he continues to slay one goblin after another. He notices that the torch flickers out with each goblin he kills. He realizes he needs to get used to the darkness while he still can. Instead of cutting through the enemy, he shifts his focus to piercing and dislodging with precision. He starts his killing spree, and with each goblin he takes down, one more fire flickers out. While it's getting dark, Leon's eyes are adjusting, so he can see well enough now. The only concern on his mind is the condition of his dagger, which is taking damage from the clashes. But he didn't expect much more from a ceremonial blade. Suddenly, a goblin leaps into the air to strike him, but Leon quickly retaliates by throwing his blade at the charging opponent, slicing its cheek. Seeing how Leon just discarded the only weapon he had catches the Black Lion off guard. It's insane to think he just discarded his weapon in the middle of the fight. But the reason Leon threw his sword was simple. He wanted to grab a bigger, sharper blade. Once he has it, he swings it with deadly precision, slashing the goblin and ending the threat. With the danger neutralized, he walks toward the damsel in distress and begins untying her. The woman is immensely grateful, finally rescued by a hero straight out of a fairy tale. But the ending of her story is not so sunshine and roses. Before the woman can even finish expressing her gratitude, Leon pierces her right in the middle of the chest. The moment his blade lands, Leon is reminded of a piece of advice his father once gave him. He spoke of monsters with the ability to mimic human beings, which he had encountered during his travels across the continents. Leon stabs her again mercilessly, causing her to groan in pain. The reason for this unexpected second stab are once again his father's words. He had specifically told Leon that those who deceive and exploit the trust of others do not deserve a peaceful death. They must experience the same fear and despair their victims felt. And so, Leon believes this woman deserves to learn that lesson through suffering. As he begins his torture, her screams echo through the dungeon. With her death, the last torch is extinguished. The scene shifts to a hotel where dancers are performing, and Sir Kerchal is running the show, surrounded by women. Sir Kerchal is having a blast, fully convinced that the Marbas household will soon be under his command. The woman to his left is equally confident, thinking a gentleman like Sir Kerchal is far more suited for the role of head of the household than a baby-faced boy like Leon. The girls around them continue to flatter him, and Sir Kerchal is enjoying the praise. He believes he's the lesser evil compared to Leon, who would drag House Marbas to extinction. Sir Kerchal is certain that his rise to power is the best thing for the house. While this shit-ass having a laughter full of joy, the brown-haired man wonders how they'll deal with Leon. The people of the estate were fiercely loyal to Leon's father, which could make it harder to dispose of him. But Sir Kerchal reassures him, promising that he already has a plan. He will make Leon's demise seem justified after the fact. Since dead men tell no tales, framing Leon with lies will be easy. The brown-haired man is glad to hear this. After all, the last time anyone heard from the dead man was centuries ago, when the founding patriarch wielded the power of necromancy. With a toast, they celebrate the success they believe is coming. Meanwhile, we cut to Lord Alan de Sylvester of House Sylvester. He's questioning his men about the progress of their plan to subjugate Marbas. One of his men reports that Sir Kerchal is essentially a pawn working under House Sylvester. Now, they just need the official approval for all-out warfare from the imperial household. Count Alan is thoroughly enjoying himself. He finds it laughable that House Marbas is under the impression that their enemy won't launch an attack when it hasn't been long since the first conflict. Alan's lackeys shower him with praise, acknowledging that none of this would have been possible without their leader's remarkable foresight. He also makes sure to give credit to Sir Kerchal, who, in Alan's eyes, is playing right into his enemy's hands. To think that the centuries-long history of House Marbas will end at the hands of a short-sighted traitor, it's almost too entertaining for Count Alan. He orders his men to hasten the preparations. Count Alan feels like he's on a streak of good luck. First, that fool of a father who got his head chopped off by his own son. Now the son himself will be next. But little does he know, the lamb he's talking about is preparing to turn himself into a literal goat. Back in the dungeon, Leon has just finished off the last of the monsters, and the dungeon is pitch black with all the torches snuffed out. This means she was the last monster he needed to kill. Just as he says this, the torches reignite, much to Leon's relief. The Black Lion, meanwhile, is absolutely thrilled to have Leon as his contractor. He leaps over Leon, causing him to fall into the pool of blood. The lion is driven by the power Leon possesses, enough to wipe out an entire camp of orcs single-handedly. He's amazed that not only did Leon see through the monster's disguise, but he also pierced its seemingly indestructible body. While Leon appreciates the compliment, he'd rather avoid confronting orcs, as he's been told they despise humans above all else. Still, the Black Lion is fascinated by how Leon managed to see through the disguise. He wants to know how he did it. The answer, Leon thinks, is simple. When all the other torches went out, one remained lit. The key thing was that the light of that torch was a different color. It was green, the color of the dead. With each monster he killed, the torches flickered out one by one. And sure enough, the last torch stayed lit until the end. That was enough of a hint for Leon to realize the woman was a monster in disguise, and he killed her accordingly. The Black Lion is even more excited now. Normally, he wouldn't expect a boy so young to deduce so much under such dire circumstances. When one's life is at stake, it's difficult enough to read the situation, let alone spring into action without hesitation. And yet, Leon did exactly that, dispatching all the enemies by himself without a hitch by using sheer brains. While the Black Lion was initially concerned about Leon's mana reserves, he now believes that one's potential shouldn't be measured solely by mana capacity. He's certain that Leon is hiding something special, something extraordinary that excites him even more. He's now looking forward to seeing what new tricks Leon might show next. Now that Leon has completed his first trial, it's time to move on to the next. His first task was to take the life of a living being, and now that he has succeeded, the Necronomicon instructs him to raise the fallen. Thinking about it, Leon can only interpret this as needing to create undead from the goblins he just slaughtered. And with that, he is about to take his first true step toward becoming an undefeated necromancer. This realization excites him beyond measure. Leon uncovers the path of necromancy laid before him. The little furball of doom and destruction implores him to gaze towards the defeated goblins before directing a column of mana into his vision. This will then allow a path of threads to weave and attach themselves to the bodies. Following those instructions, Leon successfully manages to find and connect each thread to the goblins. These threads are known as death lines. They hover over the bounds of death, each thread linking the soul from this world into the next world. Marbas explains that a necromancer's specialty lies in separating the souls from the bodies of the dead, confirming the extraction ritual, and after imbuing those souls with their own mana, the necromancer successfully commences the reanimation magic. This is quickly showcased as the goblins resurrected with a dark aura, bounded by a crest on top of their heads. Marbas gives him a visual representation by using one of the goblins to attack Leon, only to stop the goblin's attack at the last second. The demon labels this part of the process as branding. And while there were multiple ways of resurrecting the undead, this particular method favored on monsters. The demon promises to delve into the details of other forms of necromancy later on. Leon takes a stand, having learned something new from the tutorial. Now, it's his turn to fully repeat the process. But before that, a question lingers in his mind. Referencing his predecessor's words, Leon talks about how it is way more complex to resurrect a human instead of a monster. Right now, he's curious to know if he's at the level where he can safely resurrect a human into one of his undead warriors. To that, Marbas wonders if he requires the ability to be in his arsenal. Leon confirms, inviting a snarky taunt from the demon, who wonders which human will become a victim of Leon's magic. As it turns out, Leon declares the man's name as Kirchel, his one and only uncle, the traitorous bastard seeking control of the family. Returning to Kirchel's perspective, we see him bad-mouthing Leon's father, regarding him as a fool who didn't know any better. He thinks of himself as an opportune man, one who is set on a path of greatness after his brother's own demise. Now, the only thing left is to take care of the boy as the family's direct heir. Any sane man would feel guilty, perhaps even grief-stricken to imagine the thought of killing his own nephew. But this guy is equivalent to garbage, believing that it shouldn't pose any trouble to him at all. In fact, he wants this moment to be one of celebration, instead of sulking. But as they're cheerily enjoying their drinks, a loud rumble grazes across the structure. The chandelier snaps and crashes right in the middle, startling the group as a whole. Kirchel takes a moment to process what was going on. None of them could believe that the establishment could experience such a strong quake, especially when it was enchanted by a magical artifact. Kirchall's eyes dart away as he gestures to his party to remain quiet. Using his voice, he questions the intruder hiding, mocking the man for attempting to take his life. Leon's voice echoes back, taunting his uncle for having such ridiculous ideas, his amber eyes staring at the man coldly from a distance. Kirchall considers the boy nothing more than a useless young patriarch of a destroyed household. He gestures to his men to take care of the boy, but Leon's standing on business. Dude straight up tells this old man to respect him as the family's patriarch. Kirchall questions why the boys come here at a late hour. Leon coldly claps back, stating that he doesn't need an appointment to see one of his subjects, even taunting Kirchall for his ego. Kirchall, now physically peeved, roars at the boy for deeming himself as a worthy patriarch capable of leading the family. He wonders if Leon is afraid that his precious seat will soon be taken away from him. The sniveling rat thinks that it's far too late to worry about such things, as the boy's father's already dead, and no one can protect him anymore. Lifting the veil, Leon argues that he perfectly understands he's the only one who can protect himself. Kirchall laughs at the boy for arrogantly coming here alone, challenging his uncle at the cost of his own life. Our boy immediately corrects him. He never said anything about coming alone after all. Kirchall doesn't get what nonsense he's on about, when suddenly, the ground beneath him rumbles. Kirchall's body fidgeting and questioning what form of sorcery is being used. He can sense the terrifying sensation of darkness. He refuses to believe the sight of the undead before him. This is necromancy, and he knew that far too well. The scumbag mutters his confusion. Not even his brother, the late patriarch and Leon's father, could harness such a death-defying ability after all. Leon emphasizes that House Marbas shared a richer history of necromancy in the past. Regardless of the situation turning against him, Kirchall foolishly orders his men to defeat the undead goblins at once. They collectively lunge forth, attempting to defeat the goblins. The moment one of their blades is about to reach our boy's face, an undead goblin counters by clashing against the man's weapon, shocking him greatly. With his weapon deflected, the man is left wide open to be attacked by a second goblin. He meets his end when the blade slices across his abdomen, taking away his life as his body hits the ground. Kirchall's face looks great right now. This dude is pissing his pants. The rest of the undead goblins march on to take down the remaining guards, slaughtering them whole. Seeing this abominable sight take place, the traitorous scumbag can't help but think that he's facing a psychopath. The goblins tear apart Kirchall's men, yet he stands there, unable to piece together his thoughts. This massacre is something he's never seen before. It's really true. It really is true that Leon was commanding necromancy. Fueled with anger and fear, Kirchall wonders how this development could have possibly taken root. Preparing a sphere of black in his hand, he roars at the boy for making a mockery of the founding patriarch's true powers. To this, Leon taunts him, questioning what was so wrong about the true patriarch of the family to be able to wield such sorcery. Unable to withstand his words, Kirchall calls his explanation bullshit, as necromancy is long considered a lost art, something not even the boy's father could manipulate. The bastard's ego can't accept the fact that a child much younger than him was able to command such a powerful ability. Deciding to hold merit to his words, Leon gestures his hand before warning Kirchall that he's making a major mistake. At this moment, he orders his goblin servants to lunge forth and attack Kirchall. This guy is literally getting jumped Jujutsu Kaisen style, and with what little power he has, he releases the sphere of black, incinerating the goblins upon impact. Kirchall's attack may have seemed like it did some damage, but it mattered little to the goblin corpses, who merely recovered from the injury and resumed their mindless attack. The sleazy old bastard couldn't do anything, so he begged his men for help. But when he looked back, his eyes were filled with despair. Dead bodies rolled on the ground, each lifeless as the next. As his last resort, Kirchall cursed underneath his breath and released a bunch of attacks. Of course, in this situation, his control over magic was only above average. Long story short, he can't do shit in this situation. Kirchall turns to persuasion, stating that the boy will suffer consequences for betraying him like this. Leon ignores his uncle's whining and just sends one of his goblins to stab his chest. The blade connects cleanly, causing Kirchall a jolt of searing pain, his blood spilling on the ground. He attempts to fight back using his magic, but his control and predictions quickly fade. As his last resort, he deems the boy a traitor for attacking one of his own. Leon drifts off to a related tangent, a memory he once shared with his father regarding the history of the continent. Leon understands that every land has its own victors, and the NS vanquished, and it's only a matter of time before their roles are switched. Kirchall thinks the kid is wasting his time lecturing him, but Leon continues his speech, claiming that while he may be emotionless and cold in his methods, there is one thing he did learn from a book. In Leon's words, forgiveness is a right only bestowed upon the victor, and Kirchall was once that victor too. However, He ended up betraying the patriarch for the pursuit of his own power. But things have changed now. The bitter truth stabs Kirchall, but our boy continues to spit facts and logic against a dead man's incoming doom. He doesn't even bestow a farewell upon his traitorous uncle, and desperately hopes that Kirchall suffers all the way to his next life. Vowing to celebrate this day every year, Leon intends to punish Kirchall by taking away his life. In mere moments, the goblins swing their weapons at the old man, his life painfully ending with an agonizing scream. With this guy dead, Marbas is a little impressed by our boy's psychotic methods. He's rather impressed that a newbie necromancer has the ability to wield its powers with such precision. It's as if Leon has the experience of a decade behind his back. To that, the protagonist reaches an exciting enlightenment, a plan that even terrifies the demon furball. The scene switches to an urgent meeting of the council, where some nobles are confused why Kirchall has demanded yet another summoning from them. They can't figure out why he's being overly annoying as of late, while one baldhead believes that this meeting has to pertain to an urgent matter for being called on such short notice. They amuse the responsibility of the Sylvester house breaking the peace treaty and striking House Marbas while they're at their weakest. Not everyone believes the same, because breaking a major treaty like that would be a bold move from the opposing house. The war can't continue without the permission of the clan heads either, so they ultimately decide to sway away such doubts and await Kirchall's arrival. Well, someone does arrive, but it's not Kirchall. It's a young boy, whose every step haunts the council members and bolts them into a state of contemplation. They can't fathom why Leon is here when the meeting was called by his uncle. It doesn't make any fathomable sense for Leon to appear in his uncle's place. Our boy wastes no time and immediately calls out the elephant in the room. He knows they were expecting to see their uncle, and he has some rather exciting news to share. Kirchall won't be attending the meeting, particularly because he's out of commission and can't attend the meeting. Seeking further clarification, one of the council members begs for an explanation. Leon calmly takes his seat before declaring Kirchall's death, sending shivers across the room. He even goes as far as to confirm that he took his uncle's life, and with that clarified, Leon amuses if any one of them has something to say regarding his decision. This man is the unquestionable king of sass wherever he goes. Slamming the table, one of the council members roars his complaint, demanding a proper reasoning to kill the senior elder of the house. They don't want Leon to do whatever he wants as a patriarch. Psych, bitch. That's exactly what he's about to do. He calls Kirchall a traitor bearing the family name, a man who turned against the patriarch and even sold critical information to the opposing house. This man dared to claim Leon's position as the rightful head of the clan. But apart from that, what really amuses Leon is how fast these guys are sucking Kirchall's dick. They're defending him with strong opposition after all. The council members were called under Kirchall's command, and since he's not around, the only logical conclusion is that Leon's words must be true. They can't believe that Kirchall was defeated by a second-rate brat with no experience. Instead of wallowing in his loss, they understand the gravity of the situation at hand. One council member is smart enough to take Leon's immediate side, kissing his ass because he suspects that the young patriarch has come under the possession of some new power. The rest of the council members follow suit, blaming Kirchall's traitorous acts all of a sudden. Leon doesn't want to hear a word from these double-faced fuckers and renders them guilty of committing a crime. Their crime is that they failed to turn over a traitor hiding amongst their ranks. The council members are experiencing 15 heart attacks every second, knowing that this kid is outplaying them in every argument. They counter Leon, requesting for evidence behind the boy's punishment, as if to accuse him of committing murder without reason. The young patriarch expresses that he's already come prepared for that. To show them some proof of his words, he demonstrates the betrayal of Kirchall. He uses necromancy to call forth the souls of the damned, causing goblins to summon from beyond this realm. The council members are befuddled, shocked to see him commanding necromancy before their eyes. Among those resurrected, Kirchall's body rises before them. Leon calls for his name, the man's zombie-like body just holding itself together in one piece. Then he orders the deceased traitor to confess his crimes. The council members keep asking the same boring question, and Leon's done answering it over and over again. It's simple logic to him that necromancy is a magic practiced by the heirs of House Marbas. The goblins roar at the council members, causing them to flee the scene. But before these assholes can even escape their seats, one of them already hits the ground, his head severed from his shoulders. Another one drags his pitiful body across the floor, his legs severed. Leon doesn't have time for mercy and concludes that this meeting is far from over. He uses Kirchall's corpse as the object of their demise. The undead human rises before his master, his mouth open wide. Leon asks again, questioning if the council members shared involvement in the traitor's acts. The mummified body of the deceased man speaks nothing but the truth. Every single one of the council members were responsible for bringing down the patriarch. They all knew he was a traitor who sold information. Having confirmed that, Leon is content with his decisions. Blondie over here thinks he's special and begs to be spared. The same goes for the other bastards, all begging for a second chance. Leon serves them poetic justice, making his goblins tear apart their flesh. With the council eradicated, Leon fully embraces his powers of necromancy as the true patriarch of the Marbas house. Their long-lost ancient power, finally restored. Leon stands over the lifeless bodies of the slain council members with his Necronomicon floating ominously at his side. He surveys the aftermath of his work before turning his attention to a servant trembling in the shadows. Without hesitation, he demands to know the whereabouts of Pullen. The servant, shaken by the bloodshed, nervously reveals that Pullen is being held in the dungeons below on a charge of sedition. Upon hearing this, Leon orders the servant to lead the way. As he steps toward the door, he looks at the remaining servants and soldiers, warning them that they are free to flee if they wish, but if they choose to stay, he will not be held accountable for what happens next. He leaves, trusting that they will make the right decision. At House Sylvester, a man approaches Alan and hands him a letter. Alan takes it and reads slowly with a hint of relief appearing in his eyes. The letter brings news that the imperial household has turned against House Marbas, which excites him. The man remarks that it was expected, as House Marbas has nothing to offer, and the manpower they do have is useless. Alan agrees and orders his men to proceed as planned, confident that House Marbas will fall after a month. He then asks if the man is prepared for the task, to which he confidently replies that he is. Still, he ensures that his men are fully prepared for what lies ahead. His strategist, amused by Alan's certainty, jokingly remarks that the only true threats to their success would be the sudden appearance of a powerful necromancer or the impossible resurrection of House Marbas's long-dead founder. The remark only strengthens Alan's confidence. In the dungeons of House Marbas, Leon finds Pullen locked in a cell. The moment Pullen sees him, he begins pleading and apologizing, admitting that he allowed Karchal's dark ambitions to take root, which ultimately put Leon in danger. Overcome with guilt, he insists that he deserves death for his failure. However, Leon sees things differently. Pullen was the only one who opposed Karchal, proving his loyalty and making him a valuable recruit. With that, Leon orders him to rise, stating that there is much to be done and that he requires Pullen's service. Pullen is shocked, questioning what kind of service Leon could possibly need from someone like him. Leon, noticing the swarm of flies circling Pullen, merely tells him to wash himself and meet him in his office, where they will discuss the details. Pullen eagerly agrees, pledging his loyalty as Leon leaves. As night falls, Leon stands by his window, gazing outside while Marbas, in his kitty form, perches on his shoulder, lazily grooming himself. The cat breaks the silence, asking about Leon's next move. Leon pauses, lost in thought until Pullen finally arrives. To Pullen's astonishment, Leon presents a bold plan, impersonating Karchal to deceive House Sylvester. Pullen immediately voices concern, pointing out that pulling off such an impersonation convincingly would be nearly impossible. But Leon has other methods. Without hesitation, he summons a doppelganger, which morphs into Karchal's exact appearance right before Pullen's eyes. Stunned, Pullen can hardly believe what he's witnessing. Leon has just summoned an undead minion with ease. He had heard the rumors about Leon's abilities, but seeing this firsthand makes him realize just how powerful the Necromancer truly is. Still, doubts linger in Pullen's mind. Though the doppelganger may resemble Karchal perfectly, controlling it convincingly enough to fool House Sylvester is another matter entirely. He nervously expresses his concerns, fearing that their deception will quickly be uncovered. According to Pullen, the undead has no way of perfectly replicating a person's speech pattern, handwriting, or behavior. However, this isn't just any undead. It is an illusion created by a creature known as a doppelganger, which Leon managed to find. Unlike ordinary undead, this doppelganger is capable of not only mimicking someone's appearance, but also retaining their memories and personality. To demonstrate its abilities, the doppelganger channels Karchal's magic, stunning Pullen with its accuracy. Leon then recalls the moment he first encountered the creature in the dungeon while searching for a book. At the time, the doppelganger had taken the form of a woman. After killing it, Leon had demanded its name, to which Marbas revealed that it was called a doppelganger, an entity capable of replicating a person's appearance, personality, and even abilities. At the time, it had been mimicking a traveler it had slain, along with her companion. Hearing this, Leon had begun to formulate a plan. Without hesitation, he had used his necromantic magic to raise the doppelganger's body from the ground. Once a minion of the founder of House Marbas, the creature now belonged to his descendant. After all these decades, it had finally returned to its rightful master. This demon Instagram baddie is pissed as hell, while Leon glances over his contractor, acknowledging Marbas favoring him over her. The demon warns him that the creature they're facing is capable of transforming into any target a necromancer has encountered. The only condition being, she can't transform into a target more powerful than the caster. Marbus reminds our boy dearly that he better act humble because he's still too weak. Despite trapping his uncle's soul into his arsenal of soldiers, Marbus expresses that the human soul will eventually return to nothingness. That's why the demon recommended that he stay away from the matters concerning House Marbas, since he didn't have a permanent solution to the problem. But Leon opposed this strongly, arguing that he wouldn't betray his bloodline. The moment he leaves the family, innocents of the estate will be slaughtered by members of the Sylvester family. The demon Furball wonders if he's so selfless to wager his own life for the sake of others. As heartless as Leon is, he's ready to die for his family's sake. The demon thinks he's being loyal to a fault, for little to no reason at all. Instead of choosing to focus on that, he addresses the more pertinent matter at stake. A purple phantasm emerges before them, with Marbus suggesting he resurrect the creature and use it to his advantage. Leon questions if he knows this creature. Turns out, this one belongs to the founding patriarch's collection of the undead. With Leon's current condition, it will be a great help for him, so long as he can deal with its anger issues, that is. Without further ado, the boy issues the incantation, causing the phantasm to materialize into an almost human-like form. It glares at its master, before getting hard tackled by the demon Furball for returning to its newest contractor. The creature has just revived and he's already bullying the thing. Leon sees their little argument go down. The creature thinks for a moment before reaching a conclusion. Bro literally copies the fireball jutsu hand signs from the Uchiha clan, before mimicking the appearance of Leon. It also bites back against Marbus, causing him to become shocked at its boldness. All of a sudden, there are two Leons in the room, identical in appearance. Sharing another council meeting, Pullen recommends that they could use the mimicking ability to recreate Kirchal's imitation down to the smallest habits. He's more than confident that this trick will work in an espionage mission against the Sylvesters. It's a wonderful recommendation and to Leon's liking. Pullen requests asking one final question for clarity. Referencing the fact that the Sylvesters will try to secure support from the royal household, he questions why the patriarch is so adamant in defending House Marbus, even though fleeing would guarantee a much better chance of his own survival. It's the same suggestion that the demon Marbus gave him, but Leon believes he's got a firm duty to uphold, to protect the household. Hearing this answer, Pullen is determined to serve the patriarch until his dying breath. Though he's confused what motivates Leon to go to such lengths for his family. It's a good question, as Leon himself had pondered the same for a while. While he isn't exactly a noble hero of justice or anything, all he cares about is becoming a worthy head of the household, which is why he has to prove his worthiness to the throne. For now, the answer to his resolve remains shrouded in mystery. But that's also the reason he's delaying his plans, in order to consolidate an answer with his actions. Right now, in order to achieve that goal, he must first eliminate those who threaten the peace of House Marbus. The boy refuses to follow in his father's naive footsteps, and believes he will one day discover an answer for himself. His reason to fight. After the meeting, Leon meets Crow as his doppelganger. This is literally just Among Us at this point. The creature continues to insult its master, Marbus. The demon Furball gets double-teamed when both Leons corner him in an argument. Crow is the last inheritance left by the founding patriarch to his successor. Now that Leon's acquired a powerful servant, an assassin with cunning abilities, he could execute many missions with ease. Crow's specialty is killing, and his second specialty is of course berating the demon cat, who continues to get annoyed by his slander. Leon confirms that he requires much-needed assistance from Crow's abilities. He wants him to mimic Sir Kirchall, his late uncle. Crow believes it should be a piece of snake, when the correct phrase is a piece of cake. In any case, Leon thinks his version of the phrase is way cooler and better. Their petty argument comes to a close when Pullen knocks and enters the room, informing the patriarch of a letter sent by the Sylvesters in his name. Curious to read its contents, he opens the letter, learning how the Sylvesters are slandering House Marbus for abandoning their duties for well over a century now. In order to punish House Marbus for torturing its subjects for the sake of its own amusement, the Sylvesters have assumed rightful leadership under Count Alan de Sylvester's orders. A direct declaration of war between House Marbus and House Sylvester. They even offer a condition to spare House Marbus's inhabitants if they aim for an early surrender. But upon declaration of these terms, the Sylvester army will annihilate the Duchy of Marbus in a time span of 1 month. The Royal Emperor will be backing them, and Count Alan Sylvester shall lead the charge. Concluding the letter, shit is about to get real. Still, they have 1 month to prepare. For some reason, Leon is unafraid to meet the challenge. Marbus confirms that while they do have time to spare, they should use that to escape and gather their forces to fight another day. Leon corrects the demon cat, hinting a use of his necromancy powers, and stating that he's not even going to wait for the month to end. Marbus thinks this nutcase has completely lost his marbles by now. He can't face an army in hundreds. It's a threat far more overwhelming than dealing with one lousy scumbag of an uncle. The demon cat questions if he's still ready to face them with such insane odds. Hearing that, Leon smiles, believing they'll all be okay. After all, he's going to stop being merciful from now on and unleash literal hell upon his enemies. In the town, rumors of Kirchall's disappearance spread like wildfire, with villagers whispering that it was a dark omen, especially coming so soon after the death of their old lord just a few months ago. Concern grows for Leon, as many believe he must be devastated, having now lost the last of his surviving kin after his father's passing. However, one of the men assures the others that he has confidence in Leon and believes he will manage just fine despite everything. The townspeople remain hopeful, unaware that the Sylvester army is closing in on them, having already declared war. As they talk, Pullen interrupts, warning them to control their tongues and stop spreading rumors. When they turn, they see Leon standing behind Pullen, prompting them to bow and quickly apologize, insisting they were only engaging in small talk. They also express their condolences to Leon for his uncle's supposed loss, claiming it is truly tragic to lose someone so close. However, Leon corrects them, stating that his uncle is still alive but too ill to appear in public often. He says this because he knows it is best to make them believe his uncle is still alive to keep them calm. Turning away, Leon remarks that the villagers take his uncle's side a little too much. In truth, he says this as a tactic to deceive his uncle's allies. He then orders Pullen to silence anyone who witnessed the incident or is spreading false news about his uncle. Pullen, taking it as a direct order, asks why Leon came to the town center himself, as Pullen would have gladly conveyed his words. However, Leon insists on handling it personally. As they reach the outside of the town center, Marbus begins sensing a strong magical force emanating from within. Upon entering, Leon orders Pullen to wait at the entrance until he returns. Pullen agrees but expresses concern for his young master's safety, to which Leon assures him that he will be fine and instructs him to seal the door behind him. He does not want anyone to escape or enter the building. With that, Leon steps into a blood-stained, chaotic room, where chairs, tables, and bottles are scattered about while a few people are busy cleaning up the mess. Among them, Leon notices a boy with wolf ears and turns to Marbus, asking if this is the person he spoke of. Marbus confirms it. The boy in question is muscular, with wolf ears and an intense aura of potent energy surrounding him. Seeing him, Marbus grows excited, remarking that the Leon household has always lacked an eye for spotting those with potential, yet Leon has managed to find one. Walking toward him, Leon asks for a moment of his time, but the boy instantly begins apologizing, explaining that there was a brawl at their place last night and asking if Leon could return at another time. Suddenly, a woman addressing the boy as Walter kicks him forcefully, apologizing to Leon and insisting that they never intended for a beastman to greet him. She follows up with another slap, shouting at Walter for speaking so casually to Lord Marbus. Kneeling on the ground, Walter hurriedly apologizes, explaining that he did not know who Marbus was, as he is new to the area. Ignoring the commotion, Leon firmly repeats his request, asking for a moment of Walter's time. The lady steps forward, offering herself instead, but Leon dismisses her, revealing that his business is specifically with Walter. According to the demon Marbus, the Beastman boy possesses immense potential for growth, making him an excellent candidate to join Leon's household. Meanwhile, Walter remains kneeling, frozen in shock at the realization that he is in the presence of Lord Marbus's house and had just spoken so casually to him. Suddenly, to his astonishment, Leon casts a spell that emits a dark smoke, which begins to surround Walter's body, healing his wounds. Staring at his now recovered body, Walter is left speechless, but Leon's patience is wearing thin. Once again, he firmly asked for the boy's time. Hearing this, the lady quickly apologizes, revealing that Walter is her slave, and if the young lord wishes to speak with him, he must ask for her permission instead. Observing her, Leon suspects that she is unaware of his uncle's incident, meaning he can be more open with her. With a smile, he asks her when his state began allowing slavery and why she is addressing him by his childhood title. The questions make the woman visibly uneasy, as if she is hiding something. However, Leon sees right through her. Releasing a powerful dark aura, he opens his Necronomicon, calling her out for believing that he is unworthy of becoming a king. Marbus is equally excited about taking the boy in and grows furious that the woman dares to disrespect his contractor. Summoning his Necronomicon, Leon reveals to the woman that he is also deeply concerned about her enslaving people. He orders her to release any other slaves she may have, giving her 10 minutes to comply or face punishment. Hearing this, the woman grows visibly nervous, but instead of showing fear, she lowers her head with a wicked smile. Mockingly, she refers to Leon once again by his childhood title, asking if he is truly prepared for what she has in store. She then sarcastically apologizes for using the wrong title again. However, Leon remains unfazed. Ignoring her taunts, he turns to Walter, who sits beside him, scared and confused, unsure of what Leon sees in him. Suddenly, the woman snaps her fingers, and all of her men surround Leon with their weapons drawn. With a confident smirk, she commands them to charge, declaring that if something happens, Kirchhoff will support them. Leon, however, stands his ground, completely unbothered. As the attackers rush toward him, he calmly raises his hand and uses his dark magic to summon undead trolls. As soon as they materialize, the monstrous creatures begin ruthlessly slashing through everyone in their path without mercy. Witnessing the carnage, the woman is overcome with disbelief and growing fear. In that chaos, Leon walks up to one of his trolls and casually asks for its sword, remarking that his own is too chipped to be of use. The troll obediently hands him a blade, and without hesitation, Leon joins the fray, cutting down the final few remaining enemies. The woman, still standing, watches in shock, struggling to comprehend how Leon has gained such immense power. Walter, equally stunned, remains silent. Sensing his confusion, Leon turns to him and states plainly that the only reason he spared his life is because Walter will be essential to his cause in the future. Walter still can't comprehend why a man from a noble lineage would be speaking to someone like him. He knows he is just a drifter, ignored across the continent, yet Leon seems to want something from him. Since childhood, Walter had been subjected to torture and injustice, treated as an outcast. As a beastman, he was seen as a harbinger of bad luck by the human children in his village, who tormented him with relentless beatings. Something he never quite understood. He was just an innocent child, and none of it made sense to him. But one day, when he had endured enough, something within him snapped. He stood up for himself, unleashing a powerful aura of energy around him. His thoughts ran wild as he recalled the faces of his tormentors, and with a manic, uncontrollable intent to kill, he slaughtered them all. When he finally came back to his senses and saw the lifeless bodies scattered around him, he couldn't believe what he had done. Fear gripped him. Fear of facing the truth. Fear that he had become the very monster everyone claimed he was. Overwhelmed, he ran away, desperately trying to convince himself that he wasn't what they had always said he was. Returning to the present, Leon walks toward the lady, gripping the troll's knife as she nervously yells that Kirchhoff will not let this slide if he kills her. Channeling dark energy in his hand, Leon tells her that while he may not yet be worthy of the title of patriarch, soon he will be, and she has no place in his estate. With those words, he hurls the dark orb at her, killing her instantly. As he turns away, Walter stands behind him, watching nonchalantly. He has just witnessed Leon take a life, yet strangely, he feels no fear in his presence. This realization confuses him. Leon steps closer with a smile and asks for Walter's service. Before accepting, Walter wishes to ask a question. Without hesitation, he shifts into his powerful form, introducing himself as a cub of the demon wolf tribe, the most insulted and shunned among all beastmen. With raw emotion in his voice, he asks how long his tribe must continue to live with such shame and guilt. Leon meets his gaze and assures him that they will no longer have to endure such treatment. Though he admits he does not know much about their people, he makes one thing clear. If they have suffered from insult and injustice, then from this moment on, he will not tolerate it. He promises Walter that he will be a trusted member of his household, sealing it with his words. As Leon extends his hand, Walter begins to cry and accepts his invitation. Leon, noticing his silence, asks if he should take it as acceptance. Through heavy sobs, Walter confirms, stating that he will be glad to serve him no matter what. Meanwhile, in the Arkheim Empire, Esteban, Emperor of Arkheim, sits on his throne while his son, Louis, stands beside him. Louis addresses the man kneeling before them, demanding to know the reason for his summons. The nervous man reveals that he has brought a letter from House Sylvester. This irritates Louis, who sees being called over something as trivial as a letter as an insult. He claims that his father will be enraged by such disrespect. The man quickly apologizes, pleading that his sole intention was to deliver the message with urgency. As Crown Prince, Louis is currently the most powerful man in Arkheim, and the messenger is clearly afraid of offending him. However, Louis's irritation turns to intrigue when the man reveals that House Sylvester has warned of an attack on House Marbas. The messenger suggests that Louis take this opportunity to lend his support to Sylvester, ensuring the downfall of their common enemy. Louis considers the proposal but expresses concern. House Marbas has a history of necromancy, making an open war against them a risky endeavor. The man reassures him, claiming that while House Marbas once wielded powerful necromantic abilities, neither the current heir nor the previous leader possesses the potential to use such power effectively. He adds that, in contrast, House Sylvester's army has grown significantly stronger. Hearing this, Louis agrees and instructs the man to send a reply confirming Arkheim's support for House Sylvester. Removing a foe during such times is an opportunity they cannot afford to miss. The messenger bows respectfully, accepting the responsibility of delivering the message, and swiftly departs. As he leaves, Louis praises his father's rule, crediting him for creating the conditions that will allow them to eliminate House Marbas so easily. However, as he speaks, Esteban remains silent with his cold expression unchanging and his wide eyes staring blankly. Louis then lifts his father's lifeless body, smirking as he proclaims that soon, everything will be his. At House Marbas, inside Leon's office, Walter stands before him, now dressed properly. Pullen steps forward and places a pendant around Walter's neck, an artifact of great significance. Pullen explains that while Leon and the others consider Walter a member of their house, the common people will not be so accepting. Suddenly, Walter gasps in shock as his wolf ears vanish the moment he wears the pendant. Pullen informs him that the artifact is meant to conceal his beastman identity, as it could hinder Leon's cause. Though confused, Walter ultimately agrees, which brings a smile to Pullen's face. Leon, who has been observing, orders them to a meeting regarding pressing matters. Once gathered, he declares that words alone are not enough, so they all must pledge their loyalty to him with more than mere promises. With a piercing gaze, he asks if they are truly prepared to devote their undying allegiance to him. Hearing this, Pullen begins to cry, swearing his loyalty to Leon with heartfelt and solemn words. Following his lead, the doppelganger also pledges his allegiance. Witnessing this, Marbas grows excited, believing that both domination and subjugation are now on their side. Seeing everyone swear their loyalty, Walter follows suit. However, confusion strikes him when he notices Leon speaking. Not to them, but to the table. Leon remains unfazed and proposes forming a mana-bound pact with them. He makes it clear that refusing would simply mean they are unwilling to join him. A mana-bound pact converts the mana of each participating party into a binding pattern, forging an unbreakable bond. This connection allows them to share secrets that neither can reveal to outsiders. With everyone in agreement, Leon initiates the process. Channeling dark magic into his hand, he creates a portal in the ground. A massive surge of dark energy erupts from it, followed by two monstrous demonic hands emerging, clutching an ancient scroll. As the scroll unfurls, Pullen and Walter begin reading its contents. At that moment, the monstrous Marbas reveals his true form, declaring himself the deity of the house and the demon from whom House Marbas derives its name. With a deep, resonating voice, Marbas chants the pact's terms, demanding their loyalty to the bond and proclaiming Leon as the sovereign of the undead. They both stare in awe at the massive beast towering before them. As Marbas looms behind Leon, Leon introduces him to his trusted ally and assures them that he is bound to treat them with respect. In a deep, monstrous voice, Marbas takes their silence as acceptance and reveals that this pact will be sealed with their very souls. Once bound, they cannot break it. Pullen nervously assures him that they would never attempt such a thing. In his mind, however, he is in disbelief. The demon Marbas, the very entity with whom the First Lord Marbas made a contract, is standing before them. In that moment, he finally understands why Leon suddenly became such a powerful necromancer. An overwhelming pressure of mana fills the room. Even though Pullen and Walter are naturally attuned to mana, they find themselves frozen in place under the weight of Marbas's immense presence. Pullen can't help but wonder what else Leon is capable of. However, as they focus on the beast, to their shock, Marbas suddenly transforms into a small kitten. Walter, startled, is about to question what just happened, but Pullen quickly silences him by covering his mouth. Marbas notices and asks what he intended to say. Thinking quickly, Pullen nervously responds, claiming that Walter was simply marveling at Marbas's immense size and structure, as he had likely never seen such an awe-inspiring sight before. Marbas accepts the explanation but warns them not to reveal his existence to anyone. With war on the horizon, knowledge of Marbas could prove valuable to their enemies. He further explains that his form is only visible to those who have made a contract with Leon. To anyone else, he is completely invisible. Marbas then mentions that there are many who favor Karchal. Upon hearing that name, Walter suddenly recalls a past event. He once saw Karchal visiting his master's lady, delivering a letter to him. Hearing this, Marbas becomes excited, realizing they have their next lead. Leon inquires further, but Walter denies knowing anything about it. However, as they left the pub earlier, Doppelganger took a treasure box with him as a spoil of war. Seeing this, Marbas recalls that Doppelganger has always been greedy. He explains to Leon that since they had eliminated everyone in the pub, Doppelganger must have assumed he could take whatever he pleased. Curious, Leon examines the box himself and discovers a letter inside with an already broken seal. It appears they have found the very letter in question, thanks to Doppelganger's greed after all. Leon opens the letter and begins reading it aloud. It is addressed to House Marbas from House Sylvester, officially declaring war against them. According to the letter, House Marbas has neglected its duty to serve Emperor Arkheim, which is considered a grave crime. As a result, House Sylvester has granted them 1 month to surrender. Otherwise, they will declare war and destroy anything that stands in their way. The letter is signed by Alan, the Lord of House Sylvester. Upon hearing this, both Pullen and Walter are shocked. Leon, however, finds the situation amusing. He reveals to Marbus his idea of controlling the undead with his mind, something he believes could be quite entertaining. With that thought, they turn their attention to Doppelganger, and Leon issues him a mission. At the Sylvester Empire, a messenger returns to inform Alan that he has delivered the war declaration to House Marbus. He also mentions that Kirchall's expression upon seeing the letter was one of pure dread. Hearing this, Alan laughs at the thought of betraying Kirchall, but orders his men to keep him alive, believing him to be a useful idiot. They feel that power in Kirchall's hands is preferable to anyone else's, so his survival is in their best interest. Alan then inquires about Leon, to which the messenger reveals that there is no particular news regarding him. He speculates that Leon might have already been killed by Kirchall. Sylvester finds this thought amusing, prompting the messenger to ask why he is so concerned about a mere 14-year-old boy. In response, Alan counters with a question of his own about what he thinks is the greatest injustice humanity has ever experienced. The messenger hesitates nervously before admitting that he does not know. Alan then reveals the answer, facing an overwhelmingly strong foe from which there is no escape, and watching as everything comes crashing down. According to Alan, there can be no greater suffering than that. He then asks the messenger what he would do in the face of such injustice. The messenger remains silent, prompting Alan to add that his concern lies with the boy, Leon, who possesses a talent that cannot be easily perceived by the naked eye. The messenger remains skeptical, doubting that the boy holds any kind of remarkable ability. However, Alan dismisses his doubts, stating that Leon is of the Marbus bloodline, and nothing should be considered surprising when it comes to them. The messenger ultimately agrees. Back at House Marbus, in Leon's office, the doppelganger has fully transformed into Leon's exact likeness. Every gesture, every word, it's all flawlessly replicated. Watching his double speak and move with such uncanny precision, Leon can't help but be impressed by the sheer brilliance of the mimicry. Receiving the praise, Doppelganger smirks and turns his attention to Marbus, mocking him by claiming he has far more to offer than someone who spends their time as a mere kitten. The insult barely settles before Marbus launches into an attack. Witnessing the sudden clash, Walter furrows his brow in confusion. He leans toward Pullen and quietly asks if things are always this chaotic there. However, Pullen brushes him off, telling him to keep quiet.